Well, I'm fucked up like everyone else. It's like anything. Everyone says, "Oh, I'm not crazy." That means they're the craziest, right?
Right.
So, worked really hard. Wanted to make 100 grand a year in my life. That's what I dreamt about my entire life. Had the Kuntaj picture on my wall. As soon as we moved in there, 6 months later, had a house fire, lost everything. Graduated high school barely with a 1.8. Not bragging, just a reality. School was never my thing. I was daydreaming, thinking about making money, getting rich. Had no clue what to do except get out there, put gutters up, work. Did that for about 6 months. Been a guy driving a Porsche, smoking cigars. Said, "What do you do?" "You keep paying me. What do you got? What are you up to?" He's like, "I'm an investor." I was like, "That's what I want to be." So that's how I became a real estate investor. It's like
Welcome, everyone, to the Phuckit podcast, where we're looking to show people if you can change your mind, you can change your life. This is episode 2, and I have my friend and mentor, Mark Evans, on today. I'm Frank McGovern, here along with my co-host, Hoan Thai.
How's it going?
And everyone, welcome, Mark.
thank you guys. Appreciate you having me, Frank and home.
What's going on, Mark?
What's
So,
up, buddy?
I don't really know too much about you, and maybe some of our listeners don't know much about you either. So, give us a little highlight reel. Tell us what they should know about Mark Evans.
Well, I'm fucked up like everyone else. That's what they should know. And
That's a
the
good
question
start.
is how messed up are
Maybe
we?
even a
I
little
mean,
bit more than most.
exactly. It's like anything. Everyone says, "Oh, I'm not crazy." That means they're the craziest, right?
Right.
So, anyways, man, listen. At the end of the day, I grew up small town hillbilly, Ohio. I say hillbilly in a nice way. I actually, love how I grew up, where I come from. My parents are amazing people, hard workers. Where I come from, you shake a guy's hand, they don't have calluses. Their mama's boy are lazy. I grew up watching my mom and dad bust their tail. When I say small town, I'm talking 650 people, no cops, no stoplights. Worked really hard. Wanted to make 100 grand a year in my life. That's what I dreamt about my entire life. Had the Kuntaj picture on my wall. I was gonna get that one day, but little did I know, 100 grand ain't gonna get that car. And grew up into a trailer till I was 10 years old. Moved into my parents live still today. As soon as we moved in there, 6 months later, had a house fire, lost everything. Lived in a 14-foot camper out back for many months. My dad actually rebuilt the house. That's when my dad did construction when he could. He'd get off work, come home, and do some work and all that. And then graduated high school barely with a 1.8. Not bragging, just a reality. School was never my thing. I was daydreaming, thinking about making money, getting rich, and then knew I'd never go to school, go to get a job or go to college. So I was like, hey, I got to I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a real business owner. Back then, entrepreneur meant like you actually worked, not sit around did nothing, like it means now. So I bought a seamless gutter company, $1,000 down, 287 a month. Had no clue what to do except get out there, put gutters up, work. Did that for about 6 months. Been a guy driving a Porsche, smoking cigars. Said, "What do you do?" "You keep paying me. What do you got? What are you up to?" He's like, "I'm an investor." I was like, "That's what I want to be." So that's how I became a real estate investor. It's like find people doing what you want to do and ask them what they're up to, and track what they do. And went to a real estate seminar, learned about real estate, and just kept evolving from there, man. And you almost went bankrupt twice, right? Because you get a little cocky, you get a little stupid. That was in my early years, in my 20 and 22, and just started realizing I didn't have a business. I had a high-paying job for a psycho, i.e., myself, and then just started navigating the things. And then October 8th, 2005, my grandmother passed away unexpectedly. It was a big moment in my life. Had a little bit of money, had the office, had the cool stuff, but I didn't have time. I was still working 16 hours a day. I loved it, by the way. It's like I love working. I love doing what we get to do. And that's when my girlfriend, now my wife, Dina's like, "Hey, we should go somewhere for a month." Went to South Beach for a month, turned into a 7-year trip around the country and around the world. Really learned a lot about myself. Most importantly, actually, how to build a real business, not micromanage, not psychomanage people on a daily basis. And then if you fast forward today, I live in Ohio part-time, 5 months a year, 7 months a year in Florida, own multiple different businesses, lots of different real estate stuff. And just trying to figure it out, man. That's what I'm up to.
All right. So we're done, right? We're good.
Yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
One question that definitely came to my mind, just because I've known you now for I guess like 6 years or so. It seems like you've always had pretty big, dreams and aspirations. Number one, where did it come from having them big goals and aspirations? And two, why did you even think that that stuff was possible given where you were coming from?
Dude, honestly, back then it was lifestyles in the rich and famous. I watched that TV show and I'd see these houses and cars and yachts and boats and back then Trump was big too, right? The art of the deal, and he was all over the TVs, glitz and glamour. Like, what guy doesn't want hot chicks, big cars, big houses, big watches, big bank accounts? Like, I was like, if he can have it, why can't I? I was so dumb I didn't realize that I grew up in a trailer park. Like, I knew what I knew. I was more afraid of what I knew than what I didn't know. So I was willing to take the risk, jump, and go out and learn. And what you realize through this journey is, like, people that are going places don't talk shit. The people where I was at are like, you can't do that. That's not for you. Blah, blah. They'd say some of the stuff you mentioned. Like, dude, that's not for people like us. That's only for people born with a silver spoon in their mouth and all this other stuff that they've lied to themselves to keep them where they're at. And I just realized, like, dude, just start reading books. Think and Grow Rich, Magic of Thinking Big. There's a lot of powerful books out there that you can learn and do. Now I think the problem is people have too much access to too much information, and they're too busy consuming, not creating.
Yeah, 100%.
I was going to say, you made that transition to reading books and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, everybody has access to books, but what caused you to read the books? How did you know to read the books? I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Go where the information. I didn't know anybody had money. Where I come from, I didn't know anybody made over 50 grand a year in their life ever. So it's like, I can't ask them how to make 100 grand, right? They didn't know how to. If they did, they'd be doing it, right? So I was like, I just started reading books and getting around people that are actually doing stuff. And I mean, listen, a book back then is like, you go to the library. This is library days. This wasn't online days. So I just said, again, what do? You go where the information and knowledge is to learn it. And I was willing to pay for it, give every dime I had to get it. And thank God books existed, but most importantly, just action on the information I was consuming, just to get out there, learn, go do, learn, go do. Just feedback of implementation is very powerful, right?
Right. So why do you think you were able to read the books and other people who have access to all these books don't? What was the big difference? Because everybody wants to make money. Ask anybody. You want a Lamborghini? Sure. But are you willing to do
Well,
what it
everyone
takes?
wants six-pack abs too, but why doesn't everyone have them? I mean, just because you want it doesn't mean you're fucking going to get it.
Right.
Straight up, right? You got to be willing to match the effort with the action, the results. Like, the results don't magically show up. I think this is like one of the biggest things. Everyone's like, dude, if it's so easy, why doesn't everybody do it? Well, it is easy, but it's not simple.
Yeah.
You are your biggest terrorist. You're in your head negotiating. We all know this. People are overweight. People are broke. They're negotiating all the time. I'm going to get up today at 4:30. They get up at 6:30. Yeah, man, but my kids kept me up. I was kind of sick. But they do this. It's patterns of behavior. So what happens until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, nothing's genuinely going to change. I hated being poor really, really bad. And that's how I saw my family, my entire life. I grow up, just not have money. And it was really a big pain point for me. So the best way to solve that is to go get money.
Got it. So you reached like a breaking point of sorts.
Yeah, 12 years old. So, dude, I've always been a hustler. Thinking about, someone was asking me, when did you start realizing outsourcing was a thing? At 12 years old, I was hiring my buddies to mow lawns. Well, I'd go get more lawns. I'd pay them half. I'd have 6 guys working jobs, 3 guys, whatever. And, and I'm making $30 an hour. They're making $10 an hour. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. It's just, I was thinking differently even at that age.
Got it. So, your life now is drastically different than what somebody would think is poor, right? You don't have the countach, but you recently got a Lamborghini, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a car guy, though, right? Like, you got to find the thing that drives you. I've had Rolls Royces since for 15 years, so I have a nice car collection. I want a bigger one. I want a nicer one, even. But yeah, I mean, cars. I like cars. I like nice things. I like nice houses, nice cars, and stuff like that. But that motivates me. That's the materialistic thing. The truth is, I barely drive this stuff, because I'm actually busy working, so it's cool. Everyone has their thing, plus I'm a big giver. I like charity. I like charity way more than cars. I'd rather give, but which we get the beautiful thing about this world we live in, man, we can do it all.
Yep. Yeah. So just, from where you come from, right? I'm sure. And I know this just because of my own personal experiences. When you're trying to get places in life that your friends, family, or anyone around you is not looking to get, just talk about some of them experiences of how your family was with you, friends, and just people around you when you're trying to go from how they are used to living to where you want to go.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, man, you got to stop sharing big dreams with small-minded people. the thing is the truth is we're lying to ourselves anyways. We're like, dude, we're dreaming big. We're sharing the story with big ideas, and we're still not convinced it's even true. So when you share it with people that are not big dreamers anyways in general, or quit dreaming altogether because they're like, dude, it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. I'm just going to struggle. I'm going to bust my ass every day. I'm going to barely pay the bills, but I'm going to go to the football game once a quarter, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. They just giving up. So my biggest problem was I was sharing my goals and dreams with people that didn't even have dreams and goals.
Yeah.
So they just start minimizing or demoralizing me and making me the bad guy, or like, Evans, get a job, get real. When are you going to grow up? When are you going to get a real job? Blah, blah, all this stuff they say. But what I realize is, like, you start sharing big goals and dreams with other people that are living big dreams and big goals and have bigger ones than you. They actually are trying to figure out to inspire you, to direct you, to give you guidance, to say, dude, like, that's a cool dream, but you're thinking too small. If you're not hanging out with people, it's like, dude, that's a cool dream, but like, that's kind of small dream. You're not hanging out with the right guys.
Yeah. And Mark is an author of multiple books, some amazing books. One of my favorite is Magician versus Mule. So just talk about that, specifically the mindset, not just the book, but just to summarize. Mark says, a mule pretty much is doing all the work, just not like going about it and thinking about business in the right fashion. Where the magician, kind of creates and like really makes things happen, and um, can really get maximized results. So just talk about that a little bit, and what made you shift from the mule to the magician.
Well, I mean, listen, we're all mules by design. That's how we're built. You go to school, sit down, shut up, raise your hand. That was like programming you to be a mule. Like I talked about in the book. I used to watch my mom and dad get up every day, bust their tail to barely pay the bills. My mom come home crying. She's doing 3 jobs for this company. They're not going to hire anybody else because she's taking on 3 jobs. They're making more money. They're paying her less, and she's carrying the brood of this. The only way out for the mules are death and them quitting. Very few mules quit. You don't fire a mule. You're like, dude, you work way too much. I'm firing you. That's never happening. But for me, we're muling right now. But the difference is we're muling to one to many. We're going to work once, and we're going to get many people to download this. Many people, like, we could work 1 hour and it could be heard a million hours. You got to be thinking about the mule efforts that could create a compound effect in the game. Writing books, creating podcasts, creating posts, creating, blog posts, whatever, like stories and Instagram, but like just interacting at a multiplier. That's why social media is very powerful, because it's a multiplier effect of one action. So to me, when I started looking at business as a mule, I was a mule in my own company. For the first 9 years, I did everything. I couldn't wait to wake up. I couldn't wait to do all the work. I couldn't wait to yell at my assistant for spending 12 cents more on the Post-it notes than they had. Like, I knew everything about everything, and it wasn't good. I knew how much money I had. I knew how much money I come in. And now it's so big, I don't know any of these details. I know generalizations, but if you know how much you're worth or how much in your bank account, you probably don't have enough, is what I realized over the time, because there's a lot of moving parts here. But the magician, once you capture like the spirit of the magician, it's not, just to be clear, it's not a magic trick where you just wake up and you're worth millions of dollars or whatever. It's the magician that everyone knows. These big famous magicians, they literally work their craft. They muled their craft for many, many, many years to make it look effortlessly. And that's what our job is as entrepreneurs, is to make things look effortlessly. Like, people look at us like, how the hell did they just do that? What did Frank just do? And it's like, oh, I just made 200 grand on this. And they're like, what? Well, you just realized 200 grand a day, but all the stuff that you had to do to get to that point is where the real magic happens. And I think people get it lost, like, oh, it's magical. No, it's hard work. We start realizing what our worth is in the game. And that's where the real magician effect comes into play,
Yep. That compound effect. It's like, people, like, the magic, quote unquote, happens. People, quote unquote, get lucky. When you're consistently putting in hard work, you have the right mindset, you're making the right connections. You do that for years, and then eventually you, quote unquote, get lucky. But,
Yeah.
people see that event that you get lucky and don't see all of the work that was put in prior to that.
Exactly.
Well, I like telling people somebody's got to be lucky, and I'm glad it's me, right? I'm glad. Yeah, it does look magical. I like watching sports, and I'm like watching Michael Jordan do his thing, right? And I'm like, that looks so easy, right? And he's just like, it's because he's a magician at it. He's just been a meal for so long that
Yeah.
now he's amazing. So have people criticized you and saying like, like we need people to work. We need people to do these jobs. We need like what do you say to that? Like that kind of thinking from all these people.
Well, we do. That's why the world exists. But that doesn't mean that's where I'm at today. I think what people don't realize is I'm 45 now. I'm not going to do what a 20-year-old kid could do.
Right.
They got to earn their chops. They got to earn the game. They got to learn the game and earn their stripes to get up to the level where they want to be. It's not for everybody. It's for somebody. The question is, who's that somebody? Today. But the thing is I'm not afraid to do the work. You know what I mean? Like, cool. I'll work side by side with someone. But what I've realized my worth in the game is it better for me to be in here sweeping the floors or out talking on a stage in front of 1,500 people to make a connection? The guy fucking sweeping the floors ain't stepping on the stage yet. Why? Because they don't have the balls to yet. They don't have the confidence to yet. They haven't been through the storm to get to that point yet. It's not right or wrong. It's just a timing thing. It's a season of the journey. And I think the people, by the way, anybody talking shit is never above you. They're always below you.
100%.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, typically financially. So the guys that are in my circle, I'm very, conscious of my circle. And, I'm not hanging out with guys that's like, dude, we still need people to work. That's not even truth is, it's not even a thought. People are out there, they want to work. Some people love that. That's not, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, especially in the entrepreneur world, is everyone's like us. Only maybe 5% is like us.
Maybe.
The majority of the world don't want to deal with the shit we got to deal with. They don't want to go through the self-discovery process it takes to truly be a real entrepreneur. They don't want to go through the process when, oh, by the way, you owe $2 million in taxes and you only have 100,000 in the bank. What are they going to do? Oh, by the way, you still got to take care of your 14 employees. You still got to show up with a smile on your face. You still got to have production in pipeline. This is not normal. Our world is not normal, guys, right? We know that, right? I hope we realize that.
I don't know.
Typically, the people that talk shit are going to be family members and people closest to you. That's the only ones that really matter. Outsiders that don't know me, they hold zero weight in my life and always have. I've never really cared because I've always been kind of a rebel, I guess, if you will. I've always known if the crowd's going left, I'm going right, because the world is of the masses, and that's how it works. And it's just, I've kind of realized that at a very young age. But yeah, man, I think, if you got to be careful who you're talking to and who you're hanging out with, for sure.
Was it the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats, right? Is that what you said?
I think that was
exactly.
I think that was Babe Ruth that said that. But yeah, it's so true. Like, it's funny because just like me growing up, you always hear that, like rich people are bad. They must have screwed somebody over. And you always hear like negativity. And then, once I started changing my life, hanging around with different people, getting around people with money, they were literally the least judgmental people I've ever met before. Like they're, shit. I always tell people about you, Mark. You're a great businessman, obviously, but you're an even better human being. Like you, help so many people. Directly, indirectly. Your volunteer time, money, like whatever. And it's like I've never met any poor people that are doing that shit.
Exactly. I mean, dude, listen, I think at the end of the day, man, we got to be like what we're talking about is so powerful for your audience, right? Because a lot of times people get down on themselves. Like it is a hard departure journey as you start, the gap. Right now, if you're hanging out with your family and they're kind of telling you, like, you got to separate. And as the gap gets wider, that's when it gets a little harder because you do start minimizing your time with them in conversations because you have to protect the brain. Your mindset is so like, especially when your parents are telling you to go get a real job, especially like I have good parents and they've always said, Mark, just be the best at what you do. I don't care what you do, just be the best. So I've been fortunate on that side, but I've also, a lot of my buddies, like, dude, they all have jobs and they always were telling, Evans, when you get a job, I'm like, dude, I'm making 150 grand a month. You're making $3 grand a month. Tell me to go get a real job.
Yeah.
Like, what am I missing? Yeah, Evans, but that doesn't always last forever. Like, I dealt with this with my grandmother. I've talked about this, right, Frank? I don't know if you ever heard, but like, I went to my grandmother's house on a Tuesday. My grandmother was my rock. She's an amazing lady. And I sit down with her and I come out, I had flowers. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. I just closed 3 deals. I got like at least 100 G's in checks. And I go there and she's like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you at work? Your grandfather worked 5 jobs. But I'm like, I'm here to take you to lunch. She's like, you can't do that. That's not possible. I'm like, that's what's happening right now. She was fighting it. She knew me better than anybody, right? And it's just her mind couldn't wrap around it. So I just stopped trying to convince people and stopped listening to people and just did what I wanted to do, knowing that there's going to be those kind of reactions. But you got to also remember how they grew up. They grew up in recession. They grew up in tough times. You got to remember all this table talk that we all have. Our kids are not listening to like, hey guys, we're in a recession. I got to go get another job. you're only going to see dad 2 hours a week now, blah, 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 blah. Like, so it's like, it's different times. And I think we got to give them some grace of like where they were at and just realize they're not us,
Yep.
you know?
That reminds me of the book, The Psychology of Money. And in the
Yeah,
book,
great book.
he says, nobody is crazy, right? We think like, why are they thinking the way they did? And to Mark's point, it's because they grew up when they grew up, they experienced what they experienced, and then they are today who they are because of where they were,
Yep.
right? And so in the book, it was like, if you grew up in the Depression, if you had to struggle with this and that, you may also react the way they reacted.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting that, you know, you're making $150,000 a month and your buddy who's making $3,000 a month is telling you to get a real job, but like they can't hear themselves because like what you make in a year at $150,000 a month is like what they'll make in 30 years. So they can have a whole career.
Yeah, what you make in a month takes them 3 years to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're the one that needs a real job.
Yeah, but you got to understand, like, if they admit that that's not how it was, then they would have to go. They'd have to go against everything they learned. They'd have to unlearn.
Yeah.
Right? They went to college. They got the job. They're climbing the corporate ladder. Blah 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 blah. Like they'd have to go against all that. And like I never understood it. Like they understood that ladder. They wanted good grades. I didn't care about grades. I'm like, how do I pass with minimum effort? I want out of school. That's what I was thinking about.
Right.
You know, when I was in school, you know, I was collaborating. Unfortunately, school thought that was called cheating. But, you know, I was good at math, terrible at English. And I was like, yo, I need collaboration effort here.
Yeah.
So I got caught a couple times, whatever. And it wasn't I was a bad guy. I just was not interested. I don't give a fuck about there, and there. I just want to go get paid. Like I wasn't trying to solve an English problem. I was trying to solve a money problem. You know, and I think this is where people get caught up. They get worried about mom and dad. You know, the truth is I've always had this sense of I am the one to fix this problem for my family, my generation, forever. Like if I don't do it, you know, 100, 200, 500 years from now, hopefully someone could look at whatever these sites are and say, hey, this is the guy. This is the crazy one in the family that changed the trajectory of financial literacy in our life. And that's me. I looked around and I didn't see anybody else that had the gumption that I had and the wherewithal. Like I talk about this in Magician vs. Mule, thought auditing, you know, back to your point, you know, is like, what does rich mean? What does successful mean? Like none of these guys ever stop and ask go get a real job. What does a real job even mean?
Right.
They don't know. They don't know how to define it. They just know how to say it. So not only that, a real job to grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad looks way different than it did today.
Yeah.
Does today, right? So back in the 60s, it was very noble to stay with the company for 30, 40 years. Now they can barely stay 3 or 4 minutes. You know, it's a thing. So it's like, what does real job even mean? And when, you know, and I'm kind of a dick like that. I like to put them on the spot and ask them like real questions.
Yes,
like,
he is. Yes, he is.
Know,
He's done it more than once.
What does it mean? No one really has a clue.
What it's important to do to question these things, right? That's I was saying, Frank, in a previous episode, when you ask better questions, you get better answers. So asking like, yo, so what does a real job mean? All of a sudden, it's like, nobody's ever asked me that. And then it questions their whole life. It's like, huh, what does that mean?
Yeah, but the reason is if you come up with a real answer or an answer that's different than what you've been taught, whatever age you are, 21 or 55, you actually have to do something about it now because you're aware. You're conscious.
Right.
You know, most people aren't conscious living, dude. They're not conscious. Like there's a lot of robots out there. You know, look what's going on in the last 3 years. You realize the world is the majority of the world are followers at the highest level. And it's never been proven to the highest ever, except, you know, other than the last 3 years. It's clearer than day.
Yeah.
100%.
The identity, I think there's like a sunk cost already. It's like in poker when you're like betting, you're like, you realize like I'm beat at the river. You're like, I'm beat, but you already got so many chips in the middle. You're like, I guess I got to play.
It's hard to walk away.
Yeah, it's hard to walk away. It's hard
to change that mindset.
It's hard to fold the identity.
But at the same time, it's even harder to keep it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's hard to change the mindset, but at the same time, it's even harder if you keep it.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is people are comfortable. You know, everyone talks about this comfort zone. The comfort zone is the least comfortable place you could be, typically. Comfort zone, you're in a very bad, you know, situation with your spouse and kids and blah, blah. But if you're comfortable with it, we're comfortable with that. We know how to live inside of that bubble. But once something catastrophic happens, either one person taps out or someone passes away, that's typically when change happens, is when something really, earth shattering happens in one's life. Because very few people are conscious enough to ask proper questions to get a different answer, to go seek a new solution. It's because it takes a lot of work.
One thing I definitely wanted to kind of touch on is just you're obviously of super successful financially, good family, wife, all that, and to an outsider they may appear like, oh, this guy went from on like a straight rise from the trailer park to here. But like, no, as you mentioned, you almost had to, file bankruptcy a couple of times like earlier in your career. So can you
Yep.
just kind of like talk a little bit about that? What kind of did you learn from that? What do you think kind of what mistakes did you made that, got you in that almost in that position? Like
Sure.
how were you feeling at that time and what were you able to do to kind of get past it?
Yeah, I mean, back then, I was young and cocky. I thought I knew everything. This doesn't matter about ages, but I was young then, 20s, and I remember thinking I knew everything. And what happened on 104 Cypress? Patricia Nuttall, never forget. She didn't pay rent one time. I used to go in the bad areas of town in Columbus, Ohio, collecting rent. I'm a hillbilly in a truck carrying $30,000 in cash. I never even thought someone would kill me. Looking back now, I can't believe they didn't, or at least jump me. But anyways, this lady didn't pay, and I owned half that street and multiple properties around that, 65 properties in total. And I remember I went there, she didn't pay, and she had a kid, and I was like, "Cool, just pay me next week." Well, next week never came around, and then all of a sudden, everyone stopped paying.
Mm.
So I was actually buying, fixing, and property managing, and I broke my rule. I always said, if you live in a property, you got to rent, you got to pay rent. Like, it's what you got to do. But once she told everyone, man, it really messed everything up, and that's what caused me almost to go bankrupt. But as I'm sitting in the office, 11 o'clock at night, pouring down rain, Columbus, I'm bawling my eyes out. I called my lawyer. I was like, dude, I got to go bankrupt. Like, I'm literally burning 30 something thousand a month. I don't have any money. And keep in mind, I was just buying owner financing, sub two deals, creative financing deals to buy these houses. So once the cash flow stopped, I mean, I'm like, there's no cash. I'm spending it just as fast as I was making it back then. So I was like, dude, I got to go bankrupt. He's like, is this the only alternative? I was like, I don't know anything else. But what was happening, we don't realize, this is where friction's happening. We're sharpening the sword. This is where friction really takes place. And I think this is why most people don't ever get to this point. I was literally like, I was more embarrassed to go bankrupt. So I forced myself to come up with a better way to get out of it. And that was wholesaling real estate. That's how I did not go bankrupt. I realized I could go wholesale some properties. I didn't even know what wholesaling was, but I discovered that moment what wholesaling was. It's not like you can go online and check like you can now. I was like, dude, some guy told me about wholesaling for fast money. I need to learn about this. So I called him up the next day. I went and did wholesaling, and turned it around. I still have that paperwork as of today in my safe. It's something I reflect on because it's a problem. Like, it scared me. But what I also realized is friction is good. The more friction you heat up the metal, it gets sharper and sharper and sharper. And most people avoid friction like the plague, because friction also compounds, right? If you avoid friction, it's going to compound and cause it's going to be catastrophic. So I realized, let's just lean into the friction. Let me deal with it, process it, and get through it. The good news is I'm so dumb I don't stop. I just keep going. Even if I'd have went bankrupt, I wouldn't have stopped. Actually 3 years ago, I did a crazy business deal, like bad business move, one of the dumbest business things I've ever done. I think people forget, like, yeah, I'm doing cool, successful stuff, but there's also still failures happening right now. There's a company actually today, me and my partner were talking about like shutting it down. I just don't want to deal with it. I'm going to lose $1 million on that deal. But, my time freedom, my mind, and the people in that business, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm just done, and I just want to win with winners. And the partner that we took on in this particular business, he's just not a winner. He's a whiner, and I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, so like, what I get from that is like Mark had a decision, right? Like most people like in his situation like would have quit and given the fuck up. Like, oh, this isn't for me. There's nothing I can do. Let me go file bankruptcy, go get a fucking job, like whatever. But like,
Yep.
no, he figured out like he, had to reflect, like you said, he was crying, like didn't know what to fucking do in the moment, but like he thought about it and started focusing on, instead of focusing on the problem, the solution. If he would have never just overcome that, like he wouldn't be where he is today, So it's not like anyone doesn't go through some serious shit, on their journey, but it's like you just can't give up no matter how bad it gets.
Yeah. But I think, guys like us, our mindset is whatever's happening, good or bad. Like, typically you only do this when it's bad, by the way. So what what's happening for me right now? Not happening to me, but why is this happening for me? Where's my lessons? It's not losses, it's lessons. Where's the lessons? Okay, get better at looking at deals. Get better at hiring people. Like maybe someone, you had to fire them, or they're stealing from you, or you have a bad partnership, but people carry a lot of judgment on themselves. Like, dude, I'm so dumb. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I say it? You're a different person today than you were 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 3 years ago when you got into that mess anyways. It's an evolution process. And I think when you sit there and hunker down and, like you said, and take these lessons, you're like, it's happening for me. What can I learn from it? And dude, this still happens. The truth is, as we get bigger, dude, it happens. They're bigger because the decisions become way different.
Yeah.
Because one decision could be catastrophic at multiple levels. Not back then when it was just me. I didn't have a family. I didn't have other people I was taking care of financially. It was just me. So if I went BK, it's just me and my assistant. Cool, we'll figure it out. Now it's going to affect many, 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 many families.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit more burdensome for sure.
And so, and again, like what Mark is saying there, like, he's been on his entrepreneur journey for 20 plus years, and he still gets kicked in the teeth to this day. Like, it's not like just because, like, you see the success that he has, like now everything is easy. He doesn't face problems, right? Like his problems today, or probably he'd rather deal with these problems than the problems he had 15 or 20 years ago, but he still has problems, right? He still has shit that he has to deal with. Like that doesn't ever go away.
Well, without the problems that I went through back then, I wouldn't be able to handle the problems today, right? And I think people are trying to accelerate this stuff. This is why most lottery winners go bankrupt. It's not that they don't have money; they don't have the mindset to handle the money, because everyone's coming out of the woodwork, right? Through our journey, all of us. If you've had any remote little bit of success, everyone's coming. You're helping your family out, and then you realize you're hurting them, not helping them. It gets to a point where they're like, dude, they're takers, not give. Like, that's part of the journey. And then, but if you popped off one day and had $100 million, now all of a sudden it's a different animal, and you don't know how to deal with it. It's just you haven't earned your stripes to get to that point. And this is what most people don't realize. Truthfully, I miss the old days. I miss them because they're very simple compared to what I deal with now, right? Like I always say, if you're not dry heaving, if you're not like stressing out, like if you're not having anxiety attacks once a week, at least you're not pushing yourself, or you're not doing enough. Because these are things, this is like in the gym, your muscles are fatiguing, you're sore. When I say dry heaving and anxiety attacks, that's like your muscles being sore in the gym because you're growing. You're actually pushing yourself. This is uncomfortable territory. Your body doesn't know how to respond. And that's why, again, as we get older, I'm 27 years deep in the game. Like, dude, I'm just getting started. Like, I'm just learning new stuff every day. And there's a lot of stress points, man.
Here's a fun question. Why not just wrap it up? You're 27 years in the game. You got all the money, all the cars, everything. You're getting anxiety attacks and dry heaving. Why not just, wrap it up and just say, I'm done. I'm good. I can live off of my money for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, that's what, there's a saying that an idle mind is a devil's workshop, right? And I have a big responsibility. The truth is I haven't done dick for where I'm going. Nothing. Right. And I think this is where some people think like, cool, you have 50 million. Okay, cool. What's that mean? I don't know. I'm like one catastrophic death, conversation with a doctor is like, yo, you have cancer. You need 25 million to solve this problem. Now you only have 25 million. And then all this happens. Now you have 2 million. Now you have this. Now you're negative million. Like, dude, not only that, I have 2 young children watching me. I'm their fucking guy. I'm their guy. My kids are watching me. People are watching me. And if I go lay on my laurels, like, oh, I made it. Dude, Michael Jordan ain't hanging out saying, oh, I'm good. I played basketball. I made all this money. He actually makes way more money now than he ever did and ever could in basketball. Mm-hmm. And he has a lot of crazy stress going on, right? So I think at the end of the day, like, life isn't really like that. That's the truth. Actually, I'd have more anxiety. I would have more stress if I sit around doing nothing. And you don't have to believe me. Ask any entrepreneur to take a 1-week vacation and watch what happens. You're going to have massive anxiety attacks, dude. It's like, I got shit to do. I'm here to create, man. I'm a creator, not I consume high quality content to go create valuable content for other people, myself. Like, I just want to, dude, we got one shot at this. I just want to grow. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know a lot of people would just quit. They're
but
if I made $1 million, I'm done.
My opinion,
a lot of people that doesn't have anything.
Exactly.
Right.
People that have it definitely would not.
Yeah. Literally, like my whole what was going on in my mind when Mark's saying all this is like anyone that ever attains like what Mark has attained or had any like real good success in life, like you don't reach it and then it's like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm gonna stop now. Like you get that, and then it's like, like, more. And it's not always necessarily like more like just money per se, but it's like you're not going to be like content or happy once you kind of reach something that you're setting out to attain. You're just going to kind of want to now you kind of create like a new goal and start focusing on that to attain that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, Hone, on that question too, I think a lot of people thinks it's about the money. I teach my kids about this. Money does not create you, it doesn't make you happy or sad. Money is money. Money is a freedom tool. That's it. How you take it, what you do with it. If it makes you happy, cool. But I know a lot of people have money that are sad. By the way, I'm sad sometimes. I'm happy sometimes. But it's a lot better when you have a lot of money. I don't have to wake up to work. I want to wake up to work. I want to wake up to push the limits. I want to wake up and help impact people. I don't, even my events I do once a year, I don't want to do that. I have to do that because I made a commitment to make an impact, right? I don't make money at those events. I actually lose money at those events. So it's like, it depends on what one thinks they're going after. But again, that's the lottery mentality. Well, Mark, you've already made it. Why don't you just quit? Well, that's not how life really works. In real life, it sounds cool, but it's not. It's like an athlete, 26 years old. They're at their prime, dude. They get cut. They're done. What happens, dude? They go in deep depression for multiple years, if not forever.
Yeah.
And they're in their prime. I feel like, just like your shirt says, I'm just getting started. I'm just learning dude, there's levels on levels, and you realize, hey, I'm weak here. I'm strong here. Hey, like I've wanted to quit 17 times today.
Today.
Right? Today. Like literally.
Today was a good day.
Like I was on the phone screaming around like a yahoo. Like, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Why is it? But but again, it's different problems, different, like when you're chasing something bigger and there's bigger opportunity and goals in life, not just for money, by the way, but for like who I can become. Not like I could not imagine stopping. I'm never stopping, but I couldn't imagine stopping anytime soon.
I want to point out something very important. It's the fact that you said like you wanted to quit 17 times today, which kind of peels back the curtain a little bit of the reality that life is not all rainbows and sunshine. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. It's not always great. And so when people have bad days, they think, what the fuck's wrong with me? Look at Mark. Look at Frank. They have great lives. How come I don't have such a great life? And then they want to kill themselves because they think they're doing something so wrong because it looks like everybody else is doing so great and has so wonderful. When in reality, everybody's got their thing. Everybody's going through it. And this podcast, its existence is so that people can get better control of their thoughts, their mindset, and make better decisions moving forward so that they can reclaim their life.
Yeah, and also just realize, right, like that everyone goes through the shit. Like like if you talk to like fucking Warren Buffett, like, anybody, like they have bad days, like they have ups and downs. It's not like you attain a certain amount of money or some level of success and now like, you're not a human that experiences emotion anymore. Like that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, and also you amplify someone like Michael Jordan or a Buffett or whatever. Now they have everyone's watching them. It's like you're under a magnifying. So actually, your anxiety heightens many, many times over. Right? We're just very simpletons. We don't really have a big world like they do. It's cool with social media, and some people can recognize you. But these guys are worldwide recognizable. Like they don't really like they're under a massive magnifying glass. So we all have to like have some, understanding about it's not just about the money. Money is a tool, no more, no less. For some reason, but again, you talk about psychology, money. Some people have so much weight on thinking the money is the solution. It actually could be the problem, and then they get it and it destroys everything that they know because they've not built the mental mind power that you guys are talking about, how to steward it, how to protect it, how to grow it, how to earn it. Again, like, there's easy, you can make money once, but how do you do it again and again and again? And then how do you teach other people how to make it with you? And then that's where it gets really interesting when you start seeing other people around you become millionaires, multimillionaires because of, what you kind of laid out for them,
Yeah.
So in terms of like a technical standpoint, if there is a person who is just really going through it, they're like, life sucks. Nothing's happening for me. And you keep saying all this stuff. It's like, Mark, I believe you, sort of, but not for me because my life, my family, my, this, that, the other. Like, you don't understand. Is there any kind of tactical things that they could do to maybe start?
I mean, I'm a little bit different. I'm not that tactical. I would just simply say, quit being an ungrateful motherfucker. You woke up. You have a shot at life. There's people that wish they were you. There's many. The majority of the world would trade their life for anybody in a very shitty situation here in the U.S. specifically. Anybody, like lots and lots of people. When I went over to Haiti, because we do a lot of stuff in Haiti, you're sitting there watching kids eat dirt, legit dirt.
Yeah.
That's their meal under a sheet. That's their house. And we're fucking here complaining like, oh, poor me. The problem is the world is soft as fuck. That's the truth. I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. And not only that, let's be honest. People feeling that way, they're not listening to the show anyways because they're too fucked. They have their head so far up their ass. They don't think there is any hope. So they wouldn't even go seek a solution, right? Real entrepreneurs know it's part of the game. You think Tom Brady showed up to the field every day and it's simple? No, dude. The world, the most of the people in the crowd are booing him. They want to see him fail. They want to see his marriage fail. They want to see his kids get hurt. Like most people want to see this guy fail. That's why he keeps winning. He's built the muscle where he's going to show you that he's a winner. And that's what I love about winners. Winners win. And I just want to win with more winners. There's always going to be these people like, oh, poor me, dude, get your head out of your ass. So let's get back to work. They've lost sight of what they're grateful for. Dude, if you woke up, I don't care if you're negative 5 billion, 500,000 or not. I think it's very comical, to be honest with you. When I see I was $37,000 in debt, I'm like, dude, I spent that today. Like, what are you talking about? Dude, that's debt. See, the difference is and it's because debt to them, they went to a concert. They bought shirts they shouldn't be buying. They bought shoes that they shouldn't be buying. They're buying toys they shouldn't be buying. My 37 grand was investing in marketing, investing in teams, investing in software, like things that actually could make me money if they work. Oftentimes they don't work, but it's an investment in the structure in the game. They're spenders. I'm investing. It's a total different mindset.
Yeah. The people who are listening to this podcast, though we want it to change the world, a lot of times it's going to be the winner who's looking for an even better edge to win more.
Edge. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But listen, we all go through crazy shit though. Like I don't understand how people think that because if you make a little bit of money or you have a lot going on, like I don't understand where this concept comes from. The guys that have the most going on typically have the hardest stuff going on too. It's just part of the game. Like after this, I have to sit down and have the amazing conversations with tax advisors and this, like, that's not fun, but that's what you have to do. Most people, it's beautiful here in Ohio right now. I'd rather be hanging out by the pool.
Tell me about it. I was just, my wife and I were up until 2 a.m. working on taxes last night. And this is Sunday night, right? It's like, yeah, we did that as well. It's not glamorous. Everybody sees the lifestyle. They see the cars. They see all that. But then there's the Mule stuff that we got to do sometimes.
Yeah. Dude, whatever most people are doing again, it's do the opposite.
Yeah, pretty much.
If everyone says they're hanging out by the beach, get in your house and get to work.
Yeah. Have you guys ever worked on the beach? Like bust out your
All the time.
laptop on the beach? I hate it.
No, I don't use the laptop. I use the flip phone. So from December 31st, 05 until 07, like me and my wife, 7 years. So 2012, me and my wife literally traveled around the country and the world, and I used the flip phone the entire time.
Yeah.
I literally had in the morning from 4:30 in the morning till 8 a.m. I would do all my laptop work, and then I'd go to the beach or go sightseeing in India or wherever my wife wanted to go. But that's I talk about this in the books. The power of constraint is a very powerful tool. Most people sit around here like, dude, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, Z. I genuinely think most people have too much time on their hands.
Right.
They're over consuming. They're getting confused. They start stutter stepping, and then therefore they do no action. And then it just keeps cycling over and over and over. We've all done this, me included, where you turn this, little anthill into a massive mountain because you're like, dude, you're overthinking because you've heard 17 different ways and you're not sure which one to take because you're afraid to mess up. As opposed to, it's better just to pick one and execute. You screw it up, fix it when you discover you screwed it up. In the meantime, just keep moving. So I think most people have too much time on their hands. But yeah, I'm not the guy sitting on the computer. I can't do all that.
Yeah, I would see the Instagram post of like, oh, working by the pool. I'm like,
That's
that
probably just a
sucks.
picture. I'll like
Yeah.
work on my phone, like, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not taking like a laptop and shit to the beach.
Dude, I think the phone though. I like phone calls, man. I'd rather be on the phone. I get the headset in, and I could hang out at the pool all day long on the head. I've made many millions of dollars having conversations all over the world.
Yeah, ditto. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot more fun just to talk to people and then work out a deal. Like that is the most exciting thing. Just like hashing out a deal on the phone while on vacation. And then you go back to the vacation part. It's like I just had a big win on the phone, and then I have a big win because I'm on vacation. It's awesome. That's a good
Well,
life.
again, I some people take vacations. I've never taken. I don't take them. I take my life is my life. If I'm playing or working, it's all. I think sometimes people try to separate. I've actually combined mine. My life is my life. My kids see me work. My wife sees me work. They see me play. Like it's just who I am, and it's hard, dude. Like if you're like, okay, I'm going on vacation. Okay, what am I escaping from? I don't. Vacation to me sounds miserable
Yeah.
because I love what I do, dude. I love that I get up at 4:30. I love that I get to work in the morning. I love that I can go like I can get all my shit done before the family even gets up, and then I go play. And then I want to take a phone call. Like I schedule my days around my life and my life around my days.
You have kids, you were saying, Mark?
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. Yep.
Okay. And how do you balance, or if balance is the right word, but like how are you as a father? How do you spend time with your kids? Like what's your life look like
Uh,
as a
uh,
parent?
to me, it's not about balance, about priorities.
Yeah.
So right now, there's seasons of life. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. They're going to be that once. There's going to be deals forever, right? I
Yes.
don't need to do a deal today. I'm going to hang out with my kid. If it was like, yo, you got to take a call or hang out with your kid, I'm hanging out with my kids, dude. Like there's nothing that is going to change that. But I'm very conscious of, like they see dad work. I get up early. I go to work out. I do my thing. They're in school. We homeschool with a teacher at our house from 9 a.m. to 1:30. So they do their thing. I do my thing. And then I'm hanging out at the office today. They'll be over here in about 20 minutes. Right. So they'll be hanging out with dad and mom and hanging out. Like our life is our life. Like I just hang out with my kids, dude. I think it's the most important thing. But keep in mind when they turn 12, 14, and then they turn 18, like that's gonna be a different season of my life and my wife's life.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily worried about the kids as much as I am with my spouse, making sure we don't separate, in the journey of life where we pull apart as opposed to get closer together. Because right now everyone's busy doing stuff. But what happens when they turn 12 and you're looking at your spouse, you're like, dude, I kind of hate you. Either that or I kind of like you more. Like, we got to keep those cycles going. So you got to have date night, you got to have kids stuff. But, I'm usually done at like 4 or 5. I go play football, ride motorcycles, hang out with the kids, jump around. And then I go to bed, dude. I eat breakfast with them. I eat dinner with them. I mean, I really don't miss. I try not to miss ever.
Wow, that's really cool that you get to be a super dad, right?
Yeah.
Because of the decisions you've made early on, you get to have this life. And it's like, it's unfortunate that so many people think it's not within their reality, it's not within their possibility. So they just reject it. They just reject the whole idea. It doesn't fit into that world, that identity that they created, right? And so they double down on the thing that they don't actually even want, and they just go back to like, no, I can't have it. But
Yeah.
I'm
And that,
listening
and
to
that is
you.
the
Yeah.
only reason that they can't.
And that's the
Yeah.
only reasons that they
You're right.
can't. And so I guess I'm saying this out loud, that I hope that it breaks through to somebody who might be listening who's like, I can't get this. It's like, yes, you can.
And I love what Mark talked about there because people like always talk about like balance and shit. Like like to me, it's like, like Mark said, prioritizing, right? Like for me, it's a priority to take my 16-year-old daughter to school every day. Like it's a priority. Like I don't really schedule shit around doing that. Like I took my son who was, not, I coached him. Like it was like you make time for the important stuff, like when it comes up, like not like, oh, I'm on vacation, so I can't do any work, or I'm working, so I can't like do this with my, like, no, it's like you should make time for the important stuff that's priorities in your life.
Right. So you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to compartmentalize everything. It's just life.
Yeah,
You're
It's
lifing.
exactly.
just life. And just to be clear, it's not easy and it's very rarely convenient. Like I got shit to do. I want to do stuff. I'm living, but these little kids, man, they're only around once.
Yeah.
When they're gone, they're gone.
Yep.
So you start looking at a different picture, a different lens. I think that's what most people, they need to start looking through different lenses. If I look at your calendar and you don't have, certain things with your family or your wife or your kids or something like that, I can tell you what it's going to look like in the future. It ain't going to be pretty, because it's not a priority. But you'll take a dumbass meeting with someone that doesn't even have a real deal, talk to them and waste your time for an hour or 2 hours talking about nothing. And then as opposed to spending time with your kids and all these little things, the way you talk to them, the way you pat them on the back, say good job, all these little things that actually matter.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Ain't that the
Deals will
truth?
be around forever. These kids will be off into college or school, or they're building their families. We could always do a deal.
Right.
That's the last thing I'm thinking about.
So this is a mindset talk, but not to the people who are in the gutter. This is for actually the people who are making it happen, who need to realize that, yo, you're always going to make it happen. Make sure you focus on your priorities.
Kids ain't always going to be their age,
Yeah. So changing the mindsets of the rich, because hey, just because you got money doesn't mean you got it all together, right? Like Mark said, there are a lot of rich sad people too.
Yeah, and
Well, I
like
just got
money.
back from Sean Whalen's event, Lions Not Sheep, and I took my family. I'm sitting in the box. I got my kids there watching. It's interesting. Lots of people, like many, over 100 people came up to me saying, "Dude, your children were amazing. I can't believe you didn't have they didn't have any FaceTime, on their phones. They actually sit there and they watch. They didn't cry. They weren't." I'm like, "What do you like?" To me, I'm like, why would they have the thing in their face when they're supposed to be watching Jordan Peterson or Sean Whalen or Alex? Like, what are you talking? Like, my mind, I'm like, huh? And like, my son's standing there beside me the whole time. We did the after party from 7 to 9, actually 9:30. And my son's standing there the whole time beside me, going to get me water, like, he's listening to the conversation, shaking hands, look him in the eyes, stand up straight, say your name. Like, dude, if we don't teach these little shits this stuff, who's going to teach them?
Yeah.
Right.
That's like my fear for real. Like, someone else teaching my kids what I should be teaching them.
Yeah.
That's actually a good fear to have there, Mark.
Yeah. Because we know what they're trying to teach these kids these days. And it's not what we want to teach them. That's for sure.
Right. Completely off topic. How much does the homeschooling thing cost? You said you have a teacher come?
Yeah, we actually have a full-time teacher. We actually have a condo for her and everything. She goes to Florida with us. She comes to Ohio with us. But you could invest $100,000 a year, and or again, depending on how you want to do it, could be less, could be more. It's about 100, 120 ish. I don't even know, because my wife handles it all. But we bought her a nice condo here in Ohio. She works 4 or 5 hours a day, and she has a great life. Amazing lady. She's part of the family. She's been with us 4 years, and she gets a good salary. When we travel, we don't really take her a lot of places with us, but it's more like, hey, you get a week off, go see your mom, do your thing, whatever. And so it works out for everybody. But you could find someone for $100, $200 a day, I'm sure.
And she teaches both of your kids?
Correct.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, you got to remember, I have a 4-year-old, right? So my 8-year-old, he goes from 9 to 12 by himself, and then my daughter comes in from 12 to 1:30 with him. So she's only 4, so an hour and a half, 2 hours a day is plenty.
Yeah. That's like preschool kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when the real training happens, when they get out, then we play life skills, build Legos.
Yeah, Mark got his son into golf. He's probably a better golfer than I am, which isn't saying much.
Golf, he is pretty decent, but golf and tennis, it's his sport. My daughter's gymnastics, but getting around the other kids, everyone's worried about the whole, like, who do they hanging out with, this and that. Like, they're hanging out with people that are actually doing stuff. So but again, like, I want to control what's being put in their brain a little bit right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing.
When adults talk about their problems, it always goes back to when they were 5 or 7. It's like, this happened, that happened. Well, Mark, it sounds like you're doing a good job at just ensuring that the really traumatic stuff they're not going through, so that they don't have to hang on to that, so that they have that head start. It is a huge head start. People think that trauma is a prerequisite of success, and it is not. It is a huge barrier that a lot of people never get through. There's a handful of people who have used that trauma as like fuel, but it is so hard to get that thing lit in the beginning. And so a lot of times that trauma just destroys people. That's how you get the drug addicts. That's how you get the people who drink their lives away, everything. So being in control of what's going on in your kids' heads at such an early age makes such a huge impact later on. So
yeah, awesome. Maybe one day they wake up and say, "Dad, you messed me up. I should have went to a regular school." Like, it's the same thing. You like flying. Like, we fly private, right? True story. My son came to us. We were going to Jamaica. He's like, Dad, can we take the big plane with the other people? So
Mark's like, what am I
like,
doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm going backwards, son. I'm going backwards. But no, like, listen, I want them to experience stuff. Every time we get on the jet or the yacht or whatever, I'm like, you guys, we're very fortunate. This didn't happen by accident. And then I teach them about, financials and success and, chase your dreams. I don't care if you're like, Dad, I just want you to be the best at your abilities. I hire them coaches. It's interesting. Most family members will spend every dollar on their kid to hire him a baseball coach, a football coach, a basketball coach, whatever, but they won't spend any money on themselves. It's wild to me. It's mind-boggling that an adult won't invest in themselves on the best investment they could, i.e. themselves, right? So
Yeah.
It's wild.
All
Cool.
right, guys, technical difficulties, but let's get into it. Mark, what book, movie, or experience fundamentally changed your perspective on life and why?
Yeah, October 8th, 2005, my grandmother died. I had money, I had all this stuff, but it was like a free thing. She went to a basic routine checkup. 2 weeks later, she's dead. They told her she had stage 4 in her head. Her death sentence, and she just died like that. I've never seen someone age and bewilder so quickly. And it was a big wake up call for me. That's actually the moment when I said I need to build a business and not a job. Sat in my office October 8th, had a team. December 31st, I was taken off.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's deep.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define success?
It's a good question. Success is relative to the season. And success, it depends on where you're at. So my original success was I got to get money. Then I got money. Then I realized who I became to get the money. And I think success is, evolving and becoming 1% better every day. Even if it sucks, you're evolving and getting better. So success is just about the evolution of growing, to me at this point.
Awesome. If you could have a conversation with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd have it with my grandfather. I don't look at historic figures as anything special. They're just like us. But the people in my life that I care about the most are the people I'd love to sit down and have a conversation of where I'm at today to talk to them.
What would you ask him?
I'd ask them a lot of stuff. Like, what would I ask? Just like, I don't know. Just to be with them.
He meant a lot to you, huh?
Sorry, take a minute, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on to the next question.
What was the time you had self-limiting beliefs, and what did you do to overcome them?
Well, I have them every day, but the way you overcome them is knowing that iron gets sharpened with friction. And the harder it gets is where the biggest opportunity lies, because that's where most people quit. And I don't quit, almost to a fault. I just keep going until I get to the target. And the thing is the target moves constantly. And I think you have to constantly have an evolving target. And that's what I do for self-limiting beliefs.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mark.
Well, yeah, Mark, I greatly appreciate you hopping on with us. Great interview, lots of value shared. And, again, just extremely grateful for the relationship we have and just, you taking the time to hop on with us and share with all the guests.
Definitely. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, and just real quick, let everyone know where they can contact you, Mark.
Yeah, follow me on all social handles at Mark Evans DM. That's the place.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark, for all your
Thank
time
you,
and
guys.
wisdom.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.
Have a good one.